today I'm going to show you how to make this lovely 1/12 scale filing cabinet, and this is for the craft shed interior. It's got these lovely aluminium handles and label holders on the front, and this will fit perfectly beside the door. I've put the cutting list down below in the description, and coming up next is a list of the tools and materials you'll need, and then we'll get started. For this project you'll need a suitable craft wood, such as a beche or basswood, a craft knife, and this one is a Swan Morton knife which takes a size 10A blade, a steel rule for measuring and for cutting the wood along with your craft knife, a nice sharp pencil for accurate marking, a suitable wood glue, super glue, cocktail sticks, which I use for applying the glue and for removing glue from along joins, mini clamps for securing drying parts together, masking tape for the same. You'll need a couple of grades of sandpaper, a fine and a medium, your choice of paint, wood dye or varnish, and for the handles, aluminium sheet or aluminium foil, as long as it hasn't got an embossed pattern. Okay, so we're going to begin by drawing pencil lines across the back and side pieces, and so we don't have to do that 3 times, I'm going to stick these together using masking tape. So just make sure you've got a nice straight line along the top edge, and then just use a little bit of masking tape to join them up, and then turn them onto the side, and then starting from what will become the top edge along here, we're going to make the first pencil mark 29mm, and that's 1 9/64 of an inch from the top edge. So just do a little pencil mark there, and the second one will be 56mm, and that's 2 13/64 from the top edge. So 29 and 56, and that's 1 9/64 and 2 13/64. Turn that around and then join those marks up. Just put the ruler just below the pencil marks, just to allow for the thickness of the pencil nib, and draw a line across all 3 pieces. You can then remove the tape So we're now going to begin constructing the unit. So I've dispensed some glue here onto a piece of card, and I'm using a cocktail stick to apply it. And you want to begin by applying a line along the outside edge of the back piece. And the back piece is the thinner of the 3 pieces. Lay that on your work surface and attach the side piece so that the top and bottom of each piece is level. Press that into place, and then you can use a spare cocktail stick just to remove the excess glue from along the join. Bit of a bendy one there. I'm now going to attach one of these 4 pieces, the top, the bottom and the 2 shelf pieces. They're all the same size, and it's a 25mm square piece, but you want to make sure that you've got the edge that runs in the direction of the grain facing towards the front, because that's always the neater edge of the wood. So apply glue along the side and back of the piece of wood. And then put that into place along that top edge, and that should be flush with the top of the back piece. You can just use your finger, run it along there to make sure, and then pull the side piece in to meet it, which will square everything up. Like that. We can now attach the shelf pieces in the same way, so make sure you've got the neater edge at the front. Put a bit of glue on. And then these will sit just above that pencil line, so just so you can see the line below the piece. Line up the back bit first and then pull the side in to meet. Straighten that up a bit. Press it into place. Be sure to remove any excess glue, otherwise the drawers won't slide in and out nicely. Like that. The next shelf piece. Finally the bottom piece. And once again make sure that's flush, this time with the bottom of that back piece, and push it right into that corner. So you've got a nice flush bottom edge there. Remove that excess glue. You can then apply glue to all of these outer edges. Lay it back down and attach the remaining side piece. Make sure the pencil lines are facing inwards, and then you can just have a quick peep inside and make sure that the shelves are sitting just above those pencil lines. Squeeze it all together and hold it in place whilst you remove the excess glue. Pop that back down on your work surface, and then I just want to secure that side with a piece of masking tape. Oops. So put that over there, pull it nice and firmly. And I'm going to turn it like that, and I'm going to put a couple of pieces straight across the front as well, just to hold that all together. And that can then be left until the glue has dried. So once you've allowed enough time for the glue to dry, remove the masking tape, and then I've sanded this around all sides, the top and bottom, and on the front as well, just by holding it face down against the sandpaper and moving it around in circular motions like that. And I've already done this because it makes such an awful sound on camera. And then before we attach the top piece, we're just going to round off one long edge, so the front edge and both sides. So just hold it in your hand and using a piece of fine grade paper at a 45-degree angle, just sweep it along the sort of edge of the wood. That along the sides as well. And it's just a neater appearance than the straight edges. And then turn the piece over and do the same thing on the other side. Get rid of the dust. And apply glue to the top of the filing cabinet. Cocktail stick stuck to the card. Making sure you get it right into the corners and along the edges. And then put the top in place so the back straight edge is at the back of the cabinet and is flush with the back, and there's an even overhang at either side, and that will just be about 1 millimetre at either side. You can put it down on your worktop to make sure that it's flush along that back edge, and then holding it in place you can remove the excess glue. Slid out of place a bit there. Like that. And then I'm just going to put a piece of masking tape right across the top. Got a piece ready. Pull it nice and tight. And I'm just going to use a couple of clamps along that front edge, just to make sure that there's no gap in. And once again, that piece can be left to dry. Okay, so once you've allowed enough time for the glue to dry, you can remove the masking tape, and then I've just given that a nice light sand all the way around again. Now usually when we're making something with drawers, I advise you to cut the pieces needed for the drawers after construction of the unit. In this case it's not necessary because we have an external front, and that means that the front will sit on the outside edges of the cabinet and overlap at the top as well. It's not quite as important that you get the fit of the drawer exactly right. So I've actually given sizes for the pieces so that it just fits nicely inside, and you'll see it doesn't come to the top of the drawer, sits flush to the front, and it's a little bit narrower than it needs to be as well. And that's because once the front is attached, the front sort of holds the drawer in place and will hide any gaps around the edges. So that's why I didn't say that this time, and the drawers are just constructed slightly differently, in that we're going to start by attaching the handle along that top front edge. I glue like that, and then stick it along the top so that the top of it is flush with the top of the drawer. Make sure that you've got a nice flush edge along there. And press that into place. Remove the excess glue from underneath. And that can then be left to dry. Then I've got one here that I did earlier, so that is now dry. And then we're just going to round over these edges, so the sides and the bottom edge, and just on the front of the drawer. I want a nice sort of flush, flat back. But just by doing this, it just gives it a more attractive shape than that sort of square. So again, just holding the sandpaper at a 45-degree angle, just sweep along those front edges, just to bevel it off a little bit. Like that. And then same thing again, we'll attach the sides to the outer edges of the base. So apply glue along each edge of the base piece. Pop that back on your work surface and attach the side pieces. Press them into place. Make sure the front and back edges are flush with the front and back of the base, and then just slide that along, and that can be left to dry, and then we'll attach the back piece. So once that piece has dried enough for you to be able to pick it up without it falling apart, apply glue to the back edges. Pop it back down on your worktop and then attach the back piece, making sure that those sides are flush with the sides of that piece. Press it all together, and then again that piece can be left to dry. And then this piece over here is completely dry now. So apply glue along the front edges. And then you want to attach the front piece so that it's flush along the bottom, and so that there's an even overhang at either side. Let me show you that from that angle. So you're flush along there, and you've got that same amount overhanging at either side. And if you're not very good at measuring by eye, you can just use your ruler to make sure you've got the same amount at each side. Press that together and then remove that glue from along those edges. And let the glue dry completely before you try that in, just in case there is a bit of glue left. Otherwise that will stick into place. So once the glue on all of the drawers has dried, you can pop those into place, check everything fits nicely, and that piece is then ready to paint or stain or varnish, whatever finish you choose. Okay, so I've painted the cabinet and the drawers, and that's just one coat of emulsion paint, and once that had completely dried I gave it a light sand. And we're now going to create the metal drawer pull. So for that I'm using this aluminium sheet, and it's 0.01 of a millimetre thick. So it is still very pliable, but it's thicker than aluminium foil or tin foil, just slightly thicker. But you could use tin foil if that's what you have, but just choose one that isn't embossed. Some of them have an embossed pattern on them, which wouldn't look quite right. Okay, so cut 3 strips of the foil or sheet, same width as the drawer, and then you want it to be 5mm or 13/64 of an inch thick, which covers the front of the handle, and then we'll just wrap over the top there, but we don't want it to tuck inside, otherwise the drawer won't sort of slide in fully. So when you've cut the piece to size, lay it across the top part of the drawer, sort of hold it in position, and then fold it over the front of the handle. It's just easier to create the shape we want before we apply the glue. So to attach the drawer handle I'm using super glue, and I'm just going to dispense a tiny amount here onto a piece of card. And then I'm going to use a cocktail stick as usual to apply it to the drawer handle. You don't need much. And then along the top as well. And then making sure that you've got the thicker fold at the top, you could just lay that on. Try not to touch the super glue with your fingers. And just very gently push that into place, and that can then be left to dry. And there are the drawers with the handles in place. And the super glue's only been drying for about half an hour at this point, but it does actually take 24 hours to dry completely, so just be careful you haven't got any along the sort of back edge of the drawer when you slot those in. To add the labels to the front of the drawers, use a program such as Word or Excel to print off the labels using a handwriting or script type font in a size 2.5. Here I've got invoices, magazines and craft materials. Cut them out as small as you can, and then use your normal wood glue or paper glue to attach them to a piece of the aluminium sheet, leaving an even border around the outside. That can then be glued to the drawer using super glue. Position them centrally and about 5mm from the top. And there's the completed filing cabinet. Now I'm just going to bring the craft shed in and put that into position. And that will go over there near the door. I think that looks quite nice. I thought about having a little calendar up here, a little radio and a plant on top of the cabinet, so that will be another tutorial. And I'm going to do some books as well to go underneath our first cabinet. There's lots more to go inside yet, so if you're enjoying this series, please do subscribe. And if you could give the video a thumbs up, that would be really appreciated too. And hit the notification button as well if you'd like to know every time I upload. So, I hope you've enjoyed this latest tutorial. If you enjoy making your own doll's house furniture and miniatures, you might like to have a look at my books. I've published 4 of them so far. They're all available to purchase from Amazon, and I'll pop a couple of links below. And for now, thank you for watching, and I hope to see you again soon.